Hi, Steve here in my workshop in Bellevue, Nebraska. This is assignment number 2 on the drill press operations for the Shopsmith Mark 4, Mark 7, and 520 self-study course. And of course, on this lesson, as you saw in the written instructions, we're going to be drilling holes all the way through stock. And we'll be using primarily a brad point bit and a twist bit. And you should already have your board prepared, like you see here. And we've got the 9 lines about 1 inch apart. We've got, this is going to be the top of our surface. And of course, this one is the bottom of our surface. And of course, this row is going to all be done with brad point drill bit. This row here is all going to be done with the twist drill bit. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the geometry of these two bits. On the twist bit, that's this one right here, these particular bits are designed primarily for drilling into steel, but we can also use them on wood. The ones that are designed for drilling into steel, this angle here, the tip angle between these two sides here, are 135 degrees if it's designed for steel. If there's designed for wood, they'll be 128 degrees. But you can use either one on the wood. You'll get equally good results. I happen to have mine ground at 128 degrees because I use mine primarily for wood. And on the brad point bits, of course, they have a spur in the middle of them for centering our drill bit. On the twist ones, we don't. The other thing I want to talk to you about is where is actually the cutting done. These spirals that you see on here, they don't do any cutting action whatsoever. It's only right here, the very tip of the bit. That's what does the cutting. Same thing on your brad point. It's only the spurs here at the very tip to do the cutting on that. The channels on there are just to pull chips out. That's the only purpose. Also, you can see here I've got 3 drill chucks. This is the drill chuck here that comes with your machine when you buy it new. This happens to be one that is an older version from about 40 years ago that Shopsmith had. And some of you may have this one, which you can see is substantially larger and about 3 inches longer. This is the keyless chuck that Shopsmith sells. This one you do not need a key in order to tighten your drill bits in it. You can just tighten this straight by hand on this one. So it doesn't matter which chuck you're using, all of them will work just as well. Just be aware that there are differences between them. Additionally, in your written instructions, I talked about some other drill bits that are used in doing woodworking. And I talked about a spade bit, I talked about a Forstner bit, and I also talked about hole saw. And also here's a specialty one. This is used called a plug cutter. It's used for cutting plugs or dowels, and that's a specialty cutter. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and get our machine set up for doing our first set of holes. But before we do that, I just want to mention to you that your machine, you aligned it back in lesson 1, assignment 1, where we did all of the alignment on your machine. If your machine has been aligned properly, then this drill bit here should be exactly square in both this direction and in this direction. So you might want to just double check that again to make sure it's square, but it should not have changed if you did the alignment properly back in lesson 1. So let's pull all of this away, everything except what we're going to need. And our first 3 holes is going to be all the way through without a backer board at all. So you can see what the results are of doing a hole that way. And of course, in the first assignment, we set up the machine so that our drill bit is centered here and can go all the way through. So we want to position this so it's about a 1/2 inch all the way through. Tighten the quill, put the depth here on 0, and now we'll release the quill. So that's our depth stop for all of those holes. Position the board here. I'm going to turn on my light so I got a little bit more visibility. I'm going to line up the tip of that spur so that it is right there on the line, just like you saw in the written instructions. Tip is right on that first line. I'm going to hold the board there, and then we will drill all the way through. And then I'll do the next 2 holes the same way. I'm going to go ahead and set our Power Pro here on your keypad for drill. And this, since we're doing a 3/8 inch drill bit here that we put in here, I have a 1/4 inch to a 1/2, and this is brad point, and this is softwood, and that says 1000 RPM on there. So we'll go ahead and start that. Hold the board. We do that all the way through till it stops. I'll go to my next line, line up the tip of that one. And now I'll do my last one. And I will stop that. And you can see here with my brad point, front side, perfectly, absolutely clean holes. But look at the back side. That's the tear out that happens on the back side, just drilling straight through with no backer board on it whatsoever. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this around, and I'm going to do the same thing with a twist bit. And to save some time, I just have my twist bit on a separate chuck, so I'm just going to swap out the chuck and the bit completely. On yours, you would swap out the bit. You know, I forgot a step here. Let's go back. Let's put that last chuck back on there again. Okay, we're putting the brad point back on. I'm just going to set that one right behind there. All right, so what I want to do is I want to make a little mark at each of those lines with the spur on this. I did a little tip right there. I'm going to do one at each of the lines. I'm doing this on the row where the twist is going to go. Because remember, the twist bits don't have any centering spur. So this is going to help that bit self-center at the spot I want to when I get it started. So we just got 2 more here to do. And there's the last one right there. Okay. Now we'll switch back to the twist. Now I'm going to get my center punch. That's what this is, a center punch. You can use an awl if you don't have a center punch. That's going to make the holes a little bit bigger at each spot where those spurs are that I marked. And these centering punches are nice because they're spring-loaded. You just push down and it pops when it's got the right amount of depth you want. And of course, you can see what that does, how that deepens each of those there. So just double check, make sure that's going, yep, that's going all the way through. This is for the twist bit. Again, I want to make sure it's all the way through. Zero that. And now we will drill these three here. Now I'm going to have to adjust my speed here. I'll just do a back until I get all the way back to where it says twist or brad point, and this time I'll select twist softwood, and this will say 1200 RPM instead of 1000. Start that. I want to position that hole right under the center of the bit. There's that one. That one. And I got one more here. And there's those three. Now here we look on the back side. Now you can see the difference here. We got a little less tear out on the back side on the twist when we go all the way through the board. Now we'll put our backer board on. Now I'm going to put my bit down until it actually touches the surface of the board. And I'm going to set the depth of cut on this for about 3/16 because I want it actually to penetrate into this wood when we're cut this one. And we're going to do the next three twists using this backer board. Turn this on now. So this time, now you can see here, these are with the backer board here on the twist. This is without any backup here on the twist. Now we're going to do our last three where we actually drill from each side of the hole separately. It's what's called a clean from both sides. Before I do that, I'm going to clean up a little bit here. last three are going to be twist also, but this time I'm going to actually start at a new position here on the backup board. I've got the tip touching this time, but I only want it to penetrate about 1/16 of an inch or less. So it just creates a small hole on the back side. On the back side now, you see, we just have a smaller hole, and we're going to drill that now from the back side. And we'll just center the bit on that little hole there. And I'm only going to drill about 1/4 inch deep. That's enough right there, just to get a clean hole on the opposite side. So here is the top of our twist bit, and here is the bottom now of our twist bit. We've got a clean hole on both sides. We still see a little bit of tear out around the edges there. You can see that. Now we're going to go back and do these last 6 holes here with the brad point bit. See how that compares. So I'm going to get a fresh surface here on the board. Now this one now, I'm going to do the depth of cut now here on this one. I'm going to do this until the spurs, outside spurs here, actually touch the wood. Lock that down. I'm going to set this for about 3/16 more. So that all she goes all the way in there, just like we did on our twist. Now I'll do these 3 lines. Again, I'm going to go back on my keypad, back to where I did twist or brad point. And if you want to come around here with the camera so you can see that, I went back. I was here. I go back and back again, and now I select brad point, softwood, and I'm back to 1,000 RPM again. So here's these 3 brad point, and let's look at the back side on these. Now, back side here, I still have some tear out, but not as bad as I did when we had no backer board. And interestingly enough, it compares favorably with the twist on the back side. So now let's do our clean one and see what happens. I'm going to reset this so that the point is just barely penetrating this backup board. And that's where we're going to set our depth. Do these last 3 holes now. So I'll do from the top all the way down, and then we'll flip the board over and do the other side. Here we are. Now if you look here, you see these tiny little pinholes. That's where it came out the opposite side. Now we're going to drill from the other side. Now we'll drill these from the other side, lining up right with that pinhole. And I just do it about a 1/4 inch through, just to get that, because we've drilled all the way through from the other side already. Now this one, you can still see part of the piece in there. I just have to push that out now. Just push those out. And now you can see, this is the top here on the brad point, and here, brad point in the bottom. We've got totally clean holes from both sides. So that's the end of your written assignment for this particular lesson. See you on the next one.